What's good, everyone? It's Nigel here, Trinidad Empowerment Network. So, today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming election in Trinidad. So, murder in Trinidad is at an all-time high. Let's get straight in. Inflation is eating away at your paycheck. And once again, Trinidad is heading into another general election. But here's a real question. Will anything actually change come the general election? Are we stuck in a cycle where two parties literally take turns and nothing ever improves? Are we doing the definition of insanity, the same thing, and expecting a different result? Now, for me, Trinidad and Tobago, this isn't about red versus yellow. I'm not here to promote the PNM or the UNC. Irregardless of what you put in some on the comments of some of the videos I've done so far, I'm here to give you the facts. The facts as they play out, the facts as I see them, the facts as they're written. So today I want to look at both parties, some of their track records, their leadership, and most importantly, why your living standards in Trinidad and Tobago have not improved and likely would not unless we the people break the cycle. Unless we the people hold those we voted into power to account. So, I want to start with the PNM, the People's National Movement. The PNM has been in power since 2015, as we know, led by Dr. Keith Rowley until recently. Now, we have a new Prime Minister currently in Trinidad, a gentleman called Stuart Young. Stuart Young, of course, he's been a member of Parliament for a while now. He's been a member of Keith Rowley's Parliament, been a member of the PNM for a while. He comes across as a lot more, in my opinion, more articulate than the former Prime Minister. And he essentially adds a modern face, a modern look, a fresh face to the PNM party. Now, they've made moves over their time in power, in housing, the maritime industry. They've had to deal with COVID-19, of course, which, for the most part, people would say they've handled fairly well if you compared it to a lot of other parts of the world. But, and the big but for me is the crime rate. The crime rate in Trinidad has exploded, especially murder. Gang violence has exploded. Over 600 murders in 2022, even more so in 2023, ended with a record high in 2024 of over 630 murders. So despite all of their talk, that of course the PNM, in my opinion, they've failed to diversify the economy as they said they would. They failed to invest in the youth as they said they would. And that, for me, are two massive failings of the PNM. Huge. That was their promise, and they failed to deliver. Now let's look at the UNC quite briefly. Now, under their leadership in 2010 to 2015 of Kamla Persad Bissessa being the first female Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, some of the things they delivered was, they delivered on some highways, on some schools, and they delivered on some hospital promises that they said they would. But for the most part, the UNC was engulfed by corruptions and scandals. Anyone that knows anything about Cambridge Analytica and how they infiltrated the election process in Trinidad that allowed the UNC to win the election in 2010 will never forget, because the UNC were fully aware of it. Those of you who know about the live sports scandal that I talked about as well, the live sports scandal, we know a lot about nepotism and wasteful spending that's happened during their leadership. Their legacy, that legacy still haunts them to this day, and people haven't forgotten. So Kamla is still leading the UNC, but where is the new vision? And I believe this is their biggest problem. There is no new vision. You have someone in power who's been in power, who's tasted power, and to me, I feel like they just simply want to retain power with no real changes coming to Trinidad. It's a recycling of the past. There's nothing exciting about this, other than if you were deciding to vote purely because you were angry with the PNM and what they've done over the years. And that's fair enough. That's up to you, and that's fair enough. But do not let that cloud your judgment. Do not let that cloud you. Choose wisely. Now, the elephant in the room in Trinidad and Tobago that no one really wants to talk about is the UNC is largely backed by Indo-Trinidadians and the PNM by Afro-Trinidadians. The race game. The race game. No one wants to talk about it, but that's a fact. The irony is that more black people in Trinidad and Tobago vote for the UNC than Indians vote for the PNM. That's the only difference I see. But there is a divide. And that's why nothing changes. It's some sort of racial loyalty trap that we have to a particular party, that you're going to vote for them irregardless of their policies and their principles, and you are left at the bottom with nothing. You are left at the bottom with nothing. If that's the way you vote, the party you're voting for does not have to win your vote. They know they're going to get your vote anyway, so they don't have to work for it. You do not benefit by voting this way. We are Trinidadians, so we should be voting for who is best for Trinidadian, not your individual race. This is a reason why prices go up in Trinidad. You have a stagnant growth. Your wage doesn't go up in relation to the prices you see in the shops, in the grocery store. You go and you see your bill. Your grocery bill is increasing, not in line with your wages. We see things like the Dragon's gas deal being destroyed, and we're supposed to be a sovereign nation. This is a reminder that our sovereignty is under threat here by America. We are supposed to be a foreign nation, but yet we are solely dependent on America, and it seems like their policy, geopolitics, and world politics is affecting us today. The Dragon gas deal would have been a great deal for us in Trinidad. It would have been a great deal, regardless of what party was in charge. It would have been a great deal. It would have brought billions of dollars into the Trinidad economy. But Donald Trump said no, with a click of a finger, decided that, no, we're not going to have this deal. And Trinidad, once again, despite being a sovereign nation, has fallen foul of world politics and geopolitics. If you don't know what sovereignty is, I ask you to get a dictionary out and look up the word sovereignty. That is what we're supposed to be. We are supposed to be in charge of ourselves. We decide on our policies and our laws, not America. So, going back to what we have. So we have Stuart Young, who's a fresh face and brings a new energy. If I had to choose, personally, I would choose the leader of the PNM. I would vote for Stuart Young if I had to choose, right? Because he, for me, represents some sort of change. I think the UNC have done no justice to themselves by keeping the leader that they have in charge. Tried and tested, done nothing, so needs to go away. And moving forward, Trinidad needs to do a lot more. We need to invest in our youth. We need to diversify our economy. We hear this all the time. It gets boring now. Diversifying our economy in Trinidad and stop being solely reliant on oil and gas. No real country is solely reliant on two things. We rely on the two natural resources that we have in Trinidad, which is oil and gas. That is not sustainable for many reasons. One of them being the minute oil and gas prices is affected, then we see a reduction in, you hear people talk about foreign exchange and they can't get their US dollars, etc. That's because oil and gas prices are fluctuating. So the money we sell it for is not enough to bring that foreign exchange into the country so you could have a share of that wealth. So the fluctuation in oil and gas prices affects us massively. Not to mention, when we're not producing as much oil and gas, we haven't got the oil and gas to sell in the first place. So you have to keep the production line high and able to keep the money coming in. So the minute there's a drop in the production line, naturally there's a decrease in the money coming into the country. Another thing is the world is shifting away from oil and gas as well. The world is shifting away from oil and gas and going towards more of this renewable energy. You've seen a lot of countries now talk about renewable energy. Trinidad needs to be on the same pathway to renewable energy instead of waiting for everyone else to do it, then jumping on the bandwagon. It seems like we do this all the time in the Caribbean. It seems like we do this all the time in Trinidad. We wait for the likes of America to invent something and then we jump on the bandwagon, but then it's too late. We need to be innovators. We need to come up with ideas ourselves. We are capable of doing this. But going back to diversifying our economy, that's the first thing we have to do. So the fact that we import more stuff or food or whatever it is, from manufacturing to car parts to food to, I've already mentioned, to clothing, we import more stuff into the country than we export is a huge problem. The reason why China is able to compete with America and why they are going to win this tariff war that this moron Donald Trump has placed on the world, the one that's going to really affect the Caribbean massively. I saw a video with Mia Mottley, the Bajan Prime Minister, talking about this recently. It's going to affect us massively. At some point, we're going to have to put our big boy pants on and fight for ourselves and stand up and fight back against the tyrannical government or leadership in America that's Donald Trump. We are not going anywhere. I mean, this is going to be a tough few years for us. We need to diversify our economy similar to the likes of China. And like I said, China is going to win this trade war because they do not rely on anyone but China. Everything is made in China, whether it be agriculture, whether it be tech, whether it be innovation, manufacturing. As we know, they manufacture everything in China. They just about do everything in China. They do not rely on anyone else, right? So this is like you living in your house and not relying on your neighbor to provide you with food, not relying on your neighbor to give you a ride to the shop, relying on the neighbor to give you some salt or some sugar every day. That's what we need to do. We rely on America to give us everything. We import 80% of our food from America. How is that sustainable in any way, shape, or form? This is why we are in the position we are. Not to mention the people who import the food into Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean in general. If I am a greedy importer of products into Trinidad, mainly food, which you rely on, without food, you're going to die, right? Simple as that. Without food, water, energy, you're most likely going to die. So I'm the importer. I'm the person bringing the food into the country. I'm the importer. That's what an importer is. For those of you who don't know, I don't want to teach you to suck eggs. That's a British terminology. But if I'm an importer bringing food into Trinidad, you are now reliant on me. I could charge you whatever I decide to charge you. And of course, I'm here to make a profit. So I'm going to maximize the profit I'm making by charging you whatever I decide to charge you, because of course you need food, you need to eat. So I know people are going to go out and buy it. They're going to find the money to buy it. This, of course, is where crime tends to happen. When people can't afford the thing they can't afford, they go out, they pull a gun, a knife, they rob someone, and the crime rate escalates, and gang violence escalates, and poverty is a main driver of crime. Make no bone about it. Make no excuses about it. This is a main driver of crime, poverty. If we could address that and stop talking about tech, and we need to put more police on the street. I'm going off on another subject here, but this is another passion of mine, that we need to address the issue of poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. This is the biggest crime fighter. This is the biggest crime reducer. This is the biggest murder rate reducer for Trinidad. Is if we were to address the issue of poverty. And with an island of 1.4 million people and a GDP of close to 30 billion US, we have more than enough money in Trinidad to address these issues. And I'm going to keep saying this over and over again until someone gets it, that we have enough in Trinidad to address the issue of poverty, but the money is with the wealth or with the wealthy, and the money is not being trickled down or passed on or disseminated to the working class. And this is where I say we need to hold government to account. We need to hold them to account. It's the only way. So it doesn't matter who comes into power in the next few days, in the next few weeks, if we do not hold them to account. It doesn't matter who comes into power if we do not hold them to account. We need to stand and deliver. We need to stand and fight. At some point, we need to stand and deliver, man. And stop peddling the same thing and expecting a different result. I'm going to vote for the UNC because they're going to bring some change. They ain't bringing no change. I'm going to vote for the PNM because they're going to bring some change. What change? We have some hope with a new leader. I believe in the PNM. If the UNC had a new leader, I believe maybe they have a new vision. But we've seen what they've done in the past. We've seen what the example is there. We've seen what they've done. So for me, Stuart Young represents a new hope. Hopefully, he could bring something new to the table. But I have very little hope that that's going to happen. I have very, very little hope, sadly, that's going to happen. So it's now on us, the people of Trinidad, the people, you the people, we the people, to make that change ourselves. It's on us to make the change now, because they're not doing it for us. They've been doing the same thing over and over again. And we are going to see an escalation in the murder rate by the end of this year, despite the state of emergency. Never mind what the police commissioner has said, that we've seen a difference. We're in excess of 100 murders in Trinidad. We're only in the middle of April now. We're in excess of 100 murders. So you do the maths. By the end of the year, with the state of emergency is no longer in play, it's going to escalate again. And that's because we're not addressing the core, the source of the issue, which is poverty. We have to address the source of the issue. If I'm diabetic, if a diabetic person, there's a lot of people in the Caribbean who are diabetic. I'm going to use this as an analogy. I used this on a previous video. For those of you who didn't see that previous video, I want to say this to you. If you're diabetic, you go to the doctor, he said, oh, sorry, sir, sorry, ma'am, you're now diabetic. And the reason you're diabetic is because your diet has been atrocious. Again, the food system in Trinidad needs to be addressed. We import food from America that's diabolical for us. It's no good for us. The food standard in America is atrocious. There's so much chemical in the processed food that put it this way, in Europe, in the UK, England does not import food from America because the processed food and the chemicals and the stuff they put in their food does not align with the European Union standards, right? So the UK don't generally import food from America because it's so bad for you, essentially. But we do it by the ton load in Trinidad. But 80%, I believe, when I checked the last time and I saw this figure of 80% of the food in Trinidad being imported from America, it blew my mind. I found that astonishing. We are not self-sufficient in any way, shape, or form. It's oh man, anyway. we need to address the issue of going back to my analogy, right? Going back to my analogy. I'm gonna wrap the video up soon. I ain't gonna take much more of your time. But going back to my analogy of diabetes and the crime rate in Trinidad. So you go to the doctor said, listen, sir, you're now diabetic. Listen, ma'am, you're now diabetic. And the reason you are diabetic is because you're overweight and you haven't been eating well, you haven't been going to the gym, you haven't been exercising, you haven't been pulling your weight, no pun intended. So you're now diabetic. And your body's not producing insulin anymore. You're not producing insulin. So we're going to have to give you this insulin to take. And you're now going to have to take this insulin for the rest of your life on this earth. And that's it, really. That's what the doctor gives you. Give you insulin and say, yeah, go on, take the insulin. But diabetes is a reversible illness. Do your research. It's a reversible. Type 2 diabetes is a reversible illness. It means you're going to have to do some work. It means you're going to have to change your diet. It means you're going to have to lose the weight, the fat around your stomach. It means you're going to have to cut down on your sugars. It means you're going to have to cut down on your carbs. It means you're going to have to eat some protein and some fiber, eat a healthier diet. Stop eating KFC. Please, stop eating KFC, Trinidadians. What is wrong with you? They're treating you like idiots. I think KFC have got their best-selling branch in Trinidad. It's embarrassing. It's processed food. It's processed junk. Stop eating it. Stop eating it. Anyway, so the doctor's giving you, you're now on insulin, and you're on this for the rest of your life, right? And you get your diabetes gets progressively worse over the years, right? Gets worse. You don't want it to turn to type 1, because that's when you're on death's door then. You don't want it to turn to type 1. So you need to reverse it. You should be told, or you should be advised that, listen, you need to go on a diet. You need to eat healthier. You need to cut down on sugar. Stop eating sugar. Stop eating processed food. Cut down on your carbohydrates. Eat some more protein. Eat some more fiber. Have some fruits. Not too much of it because you're diabetic now and it's sweet, but fruits is good for you. It's high in fiber. Go to the gym or go for a run, do some exercise. Don't necessarily have to join a gym, but you can go and do some exercise. Go to the park for a run. Go to the savannah for a nice little run every evening. And that's the way to reverse it. Now let's look at crime and how it affects Trinidadians. Now the government see that crime has escalated. And they say the government is now your doctor. And the government says, yeah, the way we should reduce crime is we need to be tougher on the prisoners. Not necessarily the prisoner, but we need to be tougher on the gangs. We need to have tougher sentencing. We need to lock them up a bit more. We need to lock them up and throw away the key. We need more police technology. We need all this nonsense that you've heard for years. The same thing over and over again. This is what we need. We need this. We need that. But that does not fix the problem. We've done it for years. It hasn't fixed the problem. The technology, the tougher sentencing, the changing the laws, it does not fix the problem. Sorry to talk like this because it just frustrates me. What fixes the problem is that you tackle the problem at the source. So if you didn't eat junk food, if you did some exercise, if you didn't eat lots of sugar and processed food and KFC and all the other, you wouldn't have likely to have had diabetes, right? Same as if you had addressed poverty, you had given the youngsters opportunities, you've given them ideas and entrepreneurship and lined them up with jobs once they leave school that they could go to, that keeps them away from the streets, that puts money in their pocket, that keeps them motivated to become the next businessman in Trinidad, the next entrepreneur. If we gave them that opportunity, that is likely to keep them away from a life on the street and eventually dead. This is how we address crime. By the time they join a gang or they get involved in gang culture, it's too late. it's generally too late. There are lost cause, so they're going to end up in the prison system or they're going to end up dead. This is what we need to do. And this is what's not being done. And this is where the frustration sets in for me. Because we keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And when are we going to wake up? So, the election's here in a few weeks, a few days. Choose wisely. Don't vote change for the sake of change. And I feel that's what we're doing. We're going to vote change for the sake of change. And the likelihood, I'm saying it now, that the UNC is going to come into power on that basis because people are fed up. And you can't blame people for being fed up, but people are fed up. People are fed up and they've got short memories and they've forgotten that the UNC were just as useless between 2010 and 2015. Corruption, nepotism, Cambridge Analytica, you name it, happened under their watch. They've got the same leader they had back then, no real idea for change, broken promises, coming up with ideas that are not going to be fulfilled. And then, of course, you have the PNM with Stuart Young and the broken promises that they themselves had, crime escalating under their watch, the murder rate escalating under their watch, gang culture escalating under their watch. And we, the voters, are sat back thinking what is going to happen maybe in the next 4 years. I'm going to vote for change. But choose wisely. I've laid out the facts to you. You choose wisely. I've laid out my opinion to you. You choose wisely. But at the end of the day, we have to hold the policymakers, the government, the people who we put in charge to account. It starts with us. Change starts here. And I hope you guys resonate with what I had to say today. Like, subscribe to this network. I believe we, the people, can enforce the change that you so desperately need. I believe it starts with us. But collectively, it has to be a collective effort from all of us. So whoever we vote in come the 26th, is it the 26th or the 28th of April? I believe it's the 28th of April when the election date is called. Whoever you decide to vote for, once the voting is over, it's now on you to hold them to account on everything they promised to deliver. So if they're talking about diversifying the economy, taking us away from just oil and gas, meaning we need to invest in tourism, manufacturing, agriculture, tech, the youths, and address the issue with the youths in Trinidad, invest in them. This is what they need to be held to account on, these promises. If they're not, then we have the power to take action, to take real action. The power's with the people. The power's with the people, and it starts here. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. For now, much love, Trinidad and Tobago. Take care. Peace.